years ago in 2019, I came to a point where I didn't feel very motivated to pick up the guitar and play. A lot of people have asked me how to stay motivated with playing, so today I'd like to share some of the things that I've done to stay motivated with my own playing. Make sure to hit subscribe down below and click the bell for notifications so you don't miss any of my new playing videos, lesson videos, or anything else. Also, make sure to head to my website for all of my online courses, bundle packages, transcriptions, and of course, my music. Last week, I shared a story with you about a period in my life when I was probably practicing guitar the most. This was roughly from when I was finishing up high school and going through all of my years in college. It was my intention that this would be a really positive story to share with you, as it reflected a period in my life when I was really motivated to practice and of course play music. In case you missed it, you can check it out up here. But today, instead, I'd like to talk about a period which was quite the opposite. Feelings of self-doubt, lack of motivation, and possibly even burnout can be very different for everyone. And while I can't give you any personalized suggestions for how to deal with these things, I would like to share a story with you about a period in my life not so long ago where I didn't feel so motivated, and here are some of the things that I did about it. A few years ago, after a long period of rewarding but ultimately very hard work, I felt burnt out. I found myself being very tired, not very motivated to play the guitar at all. And as you know, I play music for a living, so this presented a pretty serious problem. So I tried to look within myself to regain not only motivation to play, but also inspiration. I think it's really important to be inspired to play in the first place. Having been very busy working, I noticed that I hadn't had much time to listen to music. And I think that listening to music is a big part of what inspires you to keep playing. The first thing that I decided to do was revisit some music as a listener. I went back and revisited some of the recordings that inspired me to take music seriously when I was a teenager. For me, my favorite format through which I'd listen to music was always on CDs. Loved listening to full-length albums on CD with beautiful audio quality, and could always read all the liner notes and see who played on what. It's a big part of what made me want to be a musician as well, seeing the credits. I didn't even have a CD player in my possession, so I discovered that you could pick up one of these kinds of CD players for very cheap these days. What I did was I went back through my old CD collection and started pulling out some of the albums that really inspired me the most. Let me show you what some of the albums were that got me inspired to pick up the guitar and start playing again, starting with Katie Lied by Steely Dan. If you haven't heard it, you should go back and check out Denny Diaz playing his beautiful guitar solo on the track Your Gold Teeth 2. Next up we have Sweet Nighter by Weather Report, Joe Zawinul and Wayne Shorter working out their sound as a band, just fantastic. Kamakiriad by Donald Fagen. It's not a Steely Dan album, but was produced by Walter Becker, and it's just a fantastic record. Also, Walter Becker's guitar playing on this is a real highlight for me. I think Walter's guitar playing was really underrated. Mr. Hands by Herbie Hancock, fantastic album. And last but certainly not least is the beautiful First Circle by Pat Metheny Group. This album may well contain my favorite guitar solo ever recorded, perhaps, on a track called If I Could. Absolutely stunning solo from Pat Metheny. You've got to check it out. Between doing a lot of work and of course the many forms of media and social media that are omnipresent in our lives, I realized that I just hadn't had time to do some focused listening. And this was a real problem because I felt that there was a direct correlation between not having much time to listen to music and not being that inspired to play music. When I could find the time, having the cheap little CD player actually took me away from the glowing screens for 30 or 40 minutes just so that I could have a focused listening experience. And this helped me a lot. I always felt particularly centered when I'd play through some Bach pieces on guitar. So I pulled out my old sheet music copy of Sonatas and Partitas for the Violin by Bach. And so many guitarists love this book because the pieces of music fit beautifully within the range of the guitar neck, and the pieces also work great as sight reading exercises. I certainly don't claim to be a classical musician. I love playing through Bach just for the joy of music itself. And in fact, recently, I made a video where I played through one of the pieces that really helped me through that period of burnout. Finally, while it is important to practice and certainly important to work hard, it's also very important not to lose the element of fun in your playing. One of the ways that I tried to remind myself to have fun with playing was just to plug into this little practice amp that I have and start to play freely with no limitations. I'd start to play literally anything that came into my mind, more or less going off into the realm of free improvisation. Sometimes I'd even drag my amp into the kitchen, and I did this reasonably often when I wasn't gigging or working. I even started making videos where I would play from my kitchen, and these were some of my first videos that I started sticking up on YouTube. If it stops being fun to play, then perhaps it's time to rethink your approach. And for me, one of the ways of remedying this was by dragging my old amp into the kitchen, sitting down, plugging in, and playing over some familiar chord changes, or even abandoning form altogether. Almost every musician that I know has gone through a period of self-doubt or lack of motivation at some point, and I'm certainly no exception. If I could offer any advice, I would suggest that you try to remember what made you fall in love with playing music in the first place. Think about it, and perhaps an answer will present itself. Thanks so much for joining me. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit subscribe down below and click the bell for notifications so you don't miss any of my new playing videos, lesson videos, or anything else. Also, make sure to head to my website for my online courses, bundle packages, transcriptions, and of course my music. I'll see you next time.